Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. You know, I've talked often on this channel about the 2008, the financial crisis, and how, in my opinion, the financial crisis is what led us to crypto. Now, I've also said that crypto was in the works for many years before the financial crisis. I realize that, but I believe what really caused the acceleration of really Bitcoin coming out and crypto coming out was what the governments of the world did in response to the financial crisis. And what you're looking at right now, and I want you all to go watch this video. Now, this looks, on the surface, it looks like a silly video where they've taken these animation characters and it says quantitative easing explained. Well, for those of you that were not around and don't know, when the financial crisis in 2008 happened, that was the result of a government created bubble. They never called their bubbles until after the fact, but that was a government created bubble in housing. And when that bubble popped, you would think that especially in the United States, in a supposedly capitalistic society, the failures would be failures, and then you would have everything would burn, and then you would rise from the ashes, and new companies would rise from the ashes. You would have some people that failed and some people that won, and other people that just had to figure it out. Well, I was one of the people that just had to figure it out, and many of you were the people that just had to figure out. But the governments of the world decided that instead of making the powers that be pay for the failures, many of them never paid for their failures. You had bailouts, you had money printing. They came up with new terminologies, and all of them were just reshuffling money around and printing money, and it's always been one big scam. The idea that you can't audit the Federal Reserve is a scam. The idea that 3 or 4 rich people read, I believe the book was called The Creature from Jekyll Island. Read that book if you want to find out the Federal Reserve itself was created by 3 or 4 of the most powerful men in the world at the time to basically control the money of the world. The Federal Reserve has not been audited ever. That one thing alone, the fact that the Federal Reserve has not been audited, should make you want to buy cryptocurrencies. That one fact, because I can go and audit XRP today. I can do it online. I can see which account has what because it's transparent. It's as transparent gets. And it was hatched from that. But today I want to show you, those of you that, especially new subscribers that have never heard me talk about what happened and how it unfolded. After 2008, they came up, it was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. These guys came up with new terms, quantitative easing, 1, 2, 3, bailouts. And then as the thing got over with and they realized that bailouts were going to cause them to have to go to politicians and depend on politicians in an emergency situation. And after Hank Paulson had to literally go and kneel on one knee to beg Nancy Pelosi, of all people, to bail out to pass the bailout. After that happened, they realized then they had to come up with something that would be more efficient, the bail-ins. And I've talked about the bail-ins. The bail-ins means they shut down your bank account. They say, we're having a bank holiday, and you won't have access to your bank account. And then the next 2 or 3 days later, they'll open it back up, and they will have shaved X percentage out of your bank account. That has already been passed around the world by many countries, and it is in the paperwork of many banks. And don't think they can't do it. Just go look around. They can do it. But I want to take you back. This is from 2010. Everybody listening to this, and I'm showing you this because the stock market is collapsing, and I want everybody to understand what this means and why, and how symbolic this is, and why it's so important that we are in the crypto markets like we are. This was a video, and it's a hilarious video, but at the same time, it shows you just how creepy this whole system and setup has been. And you talk about scams, the mother of all scams. Why is Nouriel Roubini calling cryptocurrency a scam? Now think about this for a minute. When anybody who owns XRP or any cryptocurrency, you can literally go online and you can put the address of that person, and you can see how much crypto they have. It doesn't matter who they are. There are crypto addresses, and it's all out there in the open. It is what it is. There's a fixed supply of these digital assets. And I want you to think about that. That's what he's calling a scam. And I want you to think about that while I go over this. This is quantitative easing explained, and I'm not going to play this video. But if you want to see how the central bank has been working and how it works in conjunction with Goldman Sachs and all of these other players, and you want to see just how you want to see a scam and how it works, watch this video, and it's part hilarious and part unbelievable. Type in quantitative easing explained. It's got over 6 million views for a reason. Next, I wanted to show you this. Now I've had some conflict with Peter Schiff recently. Peter Schiff, just to explain, after we were coming out of the financial crisis, well, I say coming out, I use those terms loosely because all that was done is it was literally papered over with printed Fed money, and they came up with schemes unheard of in order to cover up the fact that for the last 10 years, we have not had a healthy economy. We've had a disaster of an economy. Well, Peter Schiff has called it all along. And because of Peter Schiff, I eventually invested in gold and silver, and that's all he has talked about. Peter Schiff is very anti-cryptocurrency now, but I believe that that's more because he's been selling gold and silver for 10 years, and I don't think he's in a position to be able to pivot, or maybe he feels like he's not in a position to pivot to crypto. All indications to me are that he thinks all crypto is horrible. He's wrong about that, and he'll be proven wrong. And I hate that for him because he has been a really good person to call out these central banks and banks of the world and call them out for what they're doing. And in this article, he hits it perfectly. And I want to read to you a couple of things that he says, because this is exactly what's happening right now. I'm reading now from this article. He explains that traders don't understand that we are about to finish the Great Recession that started 10 years ago in 2008. Because all that Fed succeeded in doing was interrupting the process. Some 10 years of additional debt, borrowing, and spending simply facilitated the reinflation of an even bigger bubble than the one that popped before. As a result, we're in a much worse economic condition than we were before on the eve of the last financial crisis. So now the finishing process is going to be far more severe, the expert warned. According to Schiff, there's nothing healthy about what's going on. This bubble is a bubble deflating. This is exactly how it started in 2008, only this is a bigger bubble, and it's going to produce a much bigger crisis. The Economist says that this time the Federal Reserve injected far more monetary heroin into the economy, and they kept interest rates at zero for 6 years. That's never been done in history, people. And then he goes on. So it's been 9 years so far for the extremely low interest rates, which has caused a much bigger credit bubble than the one that popped in 2008. We have a bubble in real estate. We have a bubble in stocks and bonds, and we have bubbles everywhere that all popped, and the air is coming out, and the economy is in much more trouble. Schiff underlined that this time the Fed will not be able to bail anybody out. There is no bigger bubble than that the Fed could blow. This is it. The Fed is done blowing bubbles. We now finally have to deal with the consequences. And because we kicked the can down the road for so many years, the consequences are much more severe. The market expert concludes, and he could not be more right. This is about as point on as it gets. Peter Schiff called these guys, he's been calling these guys out for 10 years, and they've been laughing at him. And now, because they have no choice, the Trump administration is having to raise interest rates. And that's why all of a sudden you're seeing the stock market freak out, because now there are things that have to be done responsibly in pure economic terms. You can't have interest rates at artificially low levels for as long as they have. And if you do, you pay the consequences. And the chickens have come home to roost. And so now I want to show you what they've gotten you. They told you that they fixed everything from the financial crisis. But this right here is over double what that national debt was when 2008, back in 2008. All that they've done is lopped on more on the backs of all the Americans. And this isn't just the United States. This is the countries of the world. This is what they've done to us. Well, some genius, Satoshi Nakamoto, in combined with David Schwartz and Arthur Brito, there's a name that I might talk about further in the coming weeks. Something caused all of these people, when they did, to come out and start exploring these digital assets. Digital assets came out as a result of this, in my opinion. This is not a coincidence. And now I want to show you, and I want to make this point very clearly, okay? Now remember, in the midst of all of this, these economists who are the guys who have been in the back pockets of the elite in traditional finance, they've been in the back pockets of the central banks of the world and all of these people. These are the accepted elite economists like Nouriel Roubini. It's not a coincidence that these guys are shouting from the rooftops about how evil cryptocurrency is. You tell me, what would you rather have? A dollar that's being printed? I've shown you the numbers. They've been printing this stuff into oblivion for years since its creation, but you can't do that with digital assets. If you're investing in the top 10 or 15 digital assets and they have an actual use case that's being worked on by smart people and you've done your research, they can't print these into oblivion. It is what it is, and it's transparent, and you can see it. And that's why these traditional, if you think the Neera Beanies of the world are not on someone's payroll who's been benefiting from the real scam in this world, which is all of this QE, bailout, bail-in, money printing, keeping interest rates at zero, putting our country and our citizens in massive debts. If you think those guys aren't on the payroll of the nasty people who've been benefiting from that, you need to think again. Well, and now I'm going to show you a couple of more points that you should really let sink in. The first is, and this guy, I found two things from him in the last 24 hours. So I want to give him some credit. He is Brandon Aguilera, at Brando Aguilera. At Brando Aguilera is his Twitter handle, and he's an XRP guy. And I believe he said he may start a YouTube channel. I think he said he was Spanish speaking and might do a Spanish speaking channel, which would be a great idea. So look for him. Well, he sends me this, okay? And I want to make a point. And this all kind of ties in and puts all of this in a nice bow. How many times have you seen CNBC go on their channel, or on CNBC, how many times have you heard them say that the FANG stocks, and the FANG stocks, that refers to Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. How many times have you heard them come on their channel and call the FANG stocks a bubble? The answer to that is never. How many times have you heard them say anything having to do with the traditional stock market in the last few days is a bubble? Never. They won't do it. And the reason they won't do it is because they're getting paid. These guys are all tied to the economy, whether it's the financial advisors, CNBC, the ratings agencies, the analysts, all of these guys, they're all in the club. and they're getting paid to toe the line. And so you've never heard them. Well, the FANG stocks have lost over $1 trillion, more than all cryptocurrencies combined. Okay? $1 trillion. And yet, these same people, that all they talk about is Bitcoin's a bubble, crypto's a bubble, it's a Ponzi scheme, it's this, it's that. Meanwhile, just this handful of stocks has lost more money because of the inflated Fed bubble, the real bubble, the inflated government bubbles from around the world. This one has lost more money in the last few months than crypto has in the last year. But do they call it a bubble? No, because they're not getting paid on crypto yet. And I tell you that to tell you what I've been telling you. The script will be flipped, and all of these people who are calling crypto a bubble now, and they'll have all their standard excuses. They'll say, oh, well, now BAC's involved, and so now it's not a bubble anymore. It's legitimate because now they're doing, you can store it in a safe way. You can do it their way because they're traditional finance, and they are people you can trust. You couldn't trust all these scary exchanges, but the real reason they don't think you could trust them is because they weren't making money on it. They will be making, CNBC will be making money on it, S&P will be making money on it, Moody's, Fitch, every traditional financial firm, everybody from E-Trade to TD Ameritrade to Goldman to Morgan to Merrill to everybody you can name will be making bank off of cryptocurrencies. And when they are, and when they're positioned to do so, they will be the greatest cheerleaders on the planet for cryptocurrency. And you and I will have gotten there first, and we will get to take the ride. And so I want to make a couple of further points before I let you go. First, this is just in the last 2 months. We have found out that JP Morgan was fraudulently manipulating the silver market. This is in 2 months. And now, this week, Malaysia files criminal charges against Goldman Sachs after fund is looted of $2.7 billion. Yet, JP Morgan and Goldman, do you see CNBC? Are they being called scammers? Is Nouriel Roubini, is he calling them a stinking cesspool that is in meltdown? Their stocks are going down. Why is Nouriel Roubini not out calling these guys frauds and manipulators and criminals? Why are we not seeing this? Because Nouriel Roubini's in the club. Nouriel Roubini's in the club. And the fact is that you and I, we are cryptocurrency rebels. We are digital asset rebels. We're like the good guys that are fighting the people and the Death Star's trying to blow us up. That's the bottom line. We are the rebels. We're the financial rebels. And we're going to win. We're going to blow the Death Star up. That's exactly what's about to happen. The Death Star is about to be blown up, and it comes sooner rather than later. And I want to finish with you by showing you what Brandon Aguilera, he tells me. He put this tweet out and he said, this is Venezuela. I was born there. My family is still there. That's why fiat is a failure and crypto will be the future. Now here's someone, and I want you to all stare at your screen right now, because that is money. That is Venezuelan money that you're looking at. It is just like in a trash heap. And I'm here to tell you, there are currencies, including the US dollar, around the world that without just one simple word that they have right now that they don't even deserve. They have confidence right now. The Venezuelan people finally realized that they shouldn't have confidence in that trash that you see on the ground in that video. When that confidence disappears, people will be looking for something that gives them confidence. And I am here to tell you, the digital asset investor started with gold and silver, which I'm still a fan of and will always be a fan of. But digital assets are the first new asset class since 1696, and they represent everything that trash heap is not. Digital assets represent something they can't print into oblivion. You won't be making any more of my XRP, and so I have my stash, and it's not going to be in a trash heap because you can't make more of it. It's XRP. It's the greatest digital asset ever created, And I have some, and I hope you all out there listening to me have some. Finally, I want to make sure you all know, Ripple today, Brad Garlinghouse is going to be doing his Ask Me Anything, and I think they moved it. It'll be taking place at 2:30 Central Time. And I think Alex Cobb is doing this on a live stream. So I don't do live streams, but he does. So he'd be a good guy to go watch this. He's been doing live streams longer than anybody in crypto. So go watch his stream and check it out. It'll be interesting. And you can go on to Ripple's Twitter feed and input any questions that you have. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button and tell your friends and family that it's not crypto that's the scam. It's the printed money of the world that's the scam. Thank you for listening.